We are recording.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Hello.
It's
Nope.
okay. Don't ever
It's
feel
still me
bad.
trying to correct.
Don't feel bad about that ever. I don't get offended. I really don't.
It's so important. I've known other people that have made name changes, and um, it's names are important. And just by virtue of the fact that you went through that process and made that decision, yeah, it just feels important to honor that. And if I call you Marie, it's a mistake.
Yeah, it's really, you need practice. I had a sibling change her name, 2 siblings, and it takes time and practice. So to give grace for that is just fine.
Well, it's been long enough.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we need to see each other more often so you can use it more often.
Yeah, true. I got, he couldn't hear the audio tape very well, but I got good feedback. So I'm looking forward to continuing this and working my skills. And
Yeah.
And then I realized that the paper we write is sort of a reflection on this process and your growth during it too. So that's exciting to be able to reflect, and I hope it's something I can share with you.
Oh, great. Well, be sure to ask me the questions if you need to know.
Yeah, and I think, well, just as I was saying that, I was thinking it would be fun to sort of do it in collaboratively in some way so I can get your feedback.
Great.
Yeah. Well, probably because I need it more than you. Let's just take a moment and sit.
Sounds good.
And just, without changing our breath, just noticing it. Paying attention to areas in your being, including your physical body. There's energy that needs to be paid attention to, or you want to intentionally send some breath there. And as you're breathing with your eyes closed, without forcing it, just notice if there's any images or words that arise. I could do this all day. So whenever you're ready. Whoa, come back.
Yeah.
It was all so bright all of a sudden when I came back. Anything show up for you while we were doing that?
Well, a little distraction.
Yeah.
Thinking about a client, and I just suddenly pictures a sand tray in the middle of my playroom. So sand tray
So
on my mind.
Start there.
Yeah.
You were thinking about an actual sand tray that she had done, or no?
No, she's new, and we're on pause for 2 weeks because somebody tested positive on our team. So our first session was on a telephone because we couldn't get the connection to work for Doxy. And so I just did all of the usual, this is what counseling is, confidentiality, the expectations. So just that whole, I haven't done a new client in a while, so it was good. And she's coming because her granddaughter, who lives with her since she was in 2nd grade, was raped by her best friend's stepdad. So she's coming to help try to manage everything around that. But she's also, for the last 5 years, been caring for her husband who has Alzheimer's. So she's just overwhelmed in a big way. And so I got one of my other colleagues to take the granddaughter, 16-year-old,
Good.
so I could work with her because I knew I could do around the trauma support that she can provide and having her process the trauma. But it sounds like there's other things as well she wants to. So I start off really anxious, not anxious, but like, I'm like, okay, I hope I can give her what she needs. And this is the client. I don't know if you know this, because I don't know if Mary mentioned it, but that this client reached out to friends of hers in her area in Bella Vista. Who should I see? Who should I see? They asked Mary, and Mary said me.
Oh,
Yeah, because
fabulous.
yeah, I know, because they're already coming to the CAC anyway. And I
Mm.
guess that's how and so I come highly recommended, but it makes me go, ah.
Okay, well, there's so much there already.
So
Um,
I'm thinking in 2 weeks, she really wants to come in person, which is okay. I have room, she has flexibility. And I was thinking about, oh, sand tray. I should have some sand tray ready for her to utilize, but I have to have her own sandbox. So my brain starts problem solving that instead of relaxation and breathing and focusing a little bit. So
well,
that's what happened.
I did say notice whatever images come, and that came. So
Yeah.
I wonder what happens to us when we frame that as distraction rather than actually focusing on something that felt important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know that. Well, I've heard Deepak Chopra say that he can empty his mind for an hour, and I think I experienced 1 second and feel that that was a accomplishment. So I know a lot of, I'm not a practice meditator, but I know anytime I've listened to people that feel that resonate with me,
Right.
I like when they say, just notice and let it pass through, not,
Uh-huh.
if you start thinking, oh, I'm distracted, like beating yourself up for it, and then it takes you down a whole other road, and
Right.
but it's like a little net in your mind, and something caught, and that was the sand tray, and here we are in supervision, and I think that feels so like that was the thing you focused in on, not maybe the thing that distracted you.
Right. Exactly. Well, because I have an empty dining room that's becoming a sand tray room for our use in the home. But I'm trying really hard not to make it cluttered. So I've been slowing, and then Becky came home for the week, so I got distracted.
Okay.
But I really want to
Yeah,
create
I know.
I want to.
There's stuff roaming around, and
Mm-hmm.
you're a creative thinker and planner, and so think sand tray, but then all the little spirals off of the sand tray come up.
Yeah. I need to do my own sand trays.
Gosh, I'd love to come and do one with you.
Well, when I have it set up, you can come do one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of things I heard there were you hadn't done a new client for a while, so there was a little bit of like just gathering your mind around how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I want to be better at it too, because I realized later there's some things I didn't cover in my first sessions back in February or even December. I got an adult client transferred to me, so I reviewed the documents because I felt that was really important. Are you covering everything you should be covering? And then try not to make it all me talking at the client. Gosh, I know when I go to counseling, I can't wait to unload. And she's been waiting, her turn to get in. And then we threw this curveball of, TA instead. And so I want to try to leave room for the talking, but I've also been in the opposite end where I let the parent talk about what happened to the child, and that's all we did. And the intake doesn't even happen. Like, I don't get everything I need.
That you need for the work part.
Right. And I haven't been comfortable enough to not start the next session with the child. I could do, if I do it that way, I should do 2 back-to-backs or a follow-up phone intake to get more info, because I'm finding that I'm getting some of that later.
Yeah.
But I also see the value of getting more and asking specific questions for young children to guide me in my treatment with
For
them,
sure.
you know? So, I mean, it's not like I feel like I'm terrible at it, but I know there's ways to improve it, you know?
Oh, for sure. And then there's so many elements that are unpredictable
Yeah.
before you actually meet or speak to that person, their
Yes.
personality, something, you know, the agenda they come with, the expectations they come with. Um, do you feel in this time that each of you got what you needed from it?
Yeah. Well, the interesting with this client is because we've had several touch points, as we call them, before we even got to consultation, where we did
Mm-hmm.
focus on her granddaughter, that I feel like I know a lot of her story already. And touch points really didn't exist when I first started doing intakes. It's a new way that it helps our funding to log that in our best, which is one of our funders um, through one of the universities. Um, so as soon as a client comes in for a forensic interview, that advocate, if the family is interested in counseling or questions around counseling, they connect them with us. Then we call them.
Okay.
Mostly the first contact is calling, and then we set up a consultation, which is telehealth if possible. So we're getting more chances to build rapport a little bit, or to find out more. I like it because I get to find out more where the family is, what they're interested in moving forward, what their questions are. Sometimes I wind up doing some trauma teaching in the touch point to recognize
Yeah.
what's going on with their child, or even parenting, giving parents some ways to respond to their child. And then we get into the nuts and bolts of sending an assessment. We do a CATS, a child adolescent trauma screening. They fill it out, it comes back, and then we get together again. Sometimes it's just the adult, and sometimes it's adult client. And we go over those scores. We talk about trauma's impact, what the scores mean, and then we talk about counseling. And is it referrals? Is it CAC? So that part's all was new. I know I didn't even start doing those until probably March when we were telehealth.
Uh,
So I feel like I'm getting better at those. Because then
it sounds too like it's a process where I'm imagining being the client or the family and feeling well taken care of, like well held, you know, all the way through till they meet up with whatever it is, you know, someone's paying attention to what services they may need, and here's all the steps to get there. And
trying, yeah, and I'm figuring out, even when it's going to be referrals, I feel like I'm providing them a service, not just handing them 3 agency names, but trying to find out what they're looking for, their insurance, and then I actually look at our list. I ask sometimes around, and I actually give it to them and talk to them how to make those first steps. I don't make the connections yet. I think some of my colleagues sometimes do that next step and make those connections. I haven't done that yet, but I haven't been asked to. So I'm like, okay, I'll just do this first, you know?
yeah.
So.
And so did you, in that phone call with this grandma, oh yeah, that's what I was saying. Sometimes it's just hard to know what they bring. Like some people, you know, I'll have my, you know, I'll say before we meet, I usually say like, just in preparation for the first session, it will be different in that I need to gather a lot of information,
Okay.
and I have a lot of questions I'm going to be asking, and ordinarily I don't ask a lot of questions, but so it'll
Okay.
be different than how I usually work, just to let them know that this is not the way it's always going to, I'm not always going to be sitting there typing or taking notes while we're
Okay.
working together, but the first session I am, because it's the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're using this as an opportunity for me to get to know you, but also you to get to know me. And
Okay. I love that. I never thought about it that way.
what way? To let them know in advance that it'll be.
The first session is not a standard example of how
counseling.
our sessions will move forward. I will be,
Yeah.
because I don't ask a lot of questions typically in my work. So I like adding that in there as well. I think
Yeah, maybe it sets the expectation that
exactly.
sometimes, honestly, like after doing this for so many, after doing this for so many years, it's hard to remember their perspective, what they're,
Coming in.
if people have never been in counseling,
Yeah.
they might just, I mean, I think some people think they'll just show up and dump.
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
and then oftentimes, even if I've set the, usually my first contact is through a phone call. I always speak to someone on the phone before I'll set up our first meeting, but even on the phone call, sometimes I can tell that they're just ready to talk.
Yeah.
And so there are times in my first session where the conversation goes in another direction and I let it happen because I'm still getting
What
a
you
lot of
need.
information.
Yeah.
And, I might not be like, how many cigarettes do you smoke a week? How many, do you drink? Do you exercise? What's your faith community? Those things are on my intake, but those things can come. Now I know it's different in private practice. I have the freedom to, no one's expecting my paperwork assessment filed and signed in any timely manner. I honestly believe that it's a lofty expectation to assess someone in one session.
I agree. I also, I don't even look at it as I guess maybe it is, it starts the assessment, but there's also a lot of structuring and giving information about it. I mean, even our, I don't even get to it half the time, but, don't have 2 missed sessions, meaning don't call and cancel.
Your policies.
I didn't even get to that yet. I think it's in our written materials, but because I feel like there's so many other things in our written materials are more important. And because we're not fee based, I figure I can always cover that the first missed session because I still have a chance, So.
Yeah. So, and the policies feel important too. Yeah. I mean, I guess mainly what the objective of a first meeting like that, well, let me ask you, what would be the objective, like other than you gathering information?
So I guess just think about adult client. I think just talking a little bit about my training and my philosophy. So sort of shaping that a little bit because it's around that message of being a good fit for each other. So I want to make sure that's in there because I'm getting better at talking about that. But I think the confidentiality part is really important.
Yeah.
I did bring up, I said, we probably don't run into each other. Bentonville's big, but it also feels small sometimes.
I say that all the time. Yep.
And I tell the kids, if I see you, I'm not going to run up and say hi to you. So I did that with her. Not that we're going to run into each other very much nowadays, but that's funny because when her granddaughter finished counseling in the past, that counselor didn't even bring up until the end when they were saying goodbye to each other. That's what she recalls. It's like, oh, we're saying goodbye, but if we run into each other, explaining that, she goes, so she was familiar with that. Whereas some of my teenage clients are like, what? You can't say hi to me? I said, well, you totally can come say hi to me, but I won't say that because I don't want, the story. So
pause for 1 sec, and just to add to that, because I agree that's so important. And I also feel it's surprising that wouldn't have been mentioned off the bat. Yeah. And I like to add to that. I just want to. I'm like the person who I like to state things that might be obvious, but it's just for clarification's sake, So.
Yeah.
I say the same thing. Bentonville's grown a lot. It's it's bigger than it used to be, but I've noticed times where we might cross paths, or, with my clients, I might cross paths, and I say, I will never initiate contact. But we're human, and we like each other. We recognize each other out in public, so it's not unusual to acknowledge each other in some way, and you're welcome to say hello to me. I say that I just want to clarify that I haven't forgotten who you are, in case you think that I don't recognize you.
Oh, I
and
love
I'm
that.
not being rude, because it's human behavior to think she's just rude. And that I'm doing it out of respect for your privacy.
I love this.
Oh, good. And that you're welcome to say hello to me. And even if, when I'm with friends and family, I say they've gotten used to not asking who was that.
Oh, I love that. That's four wonderful points,
Oh, good.
Let me write that last one down. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff, this is what I'm learning, I'm learning on the job. Nobody can sit down and cover every single thing that I go through with just one client or a week's worth of clients. So that's why I'm constantly grateful that I have in-house supervision, meaning the boss who takes care of all the CAC stuff. And then I have 2 supervisors, because it's moments like this where I go, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah, and that's, and I'm sure, I don't remember exactly where they came from for me. I think, like I said, and maybe this is something that's worth practicing, is like I said, I like to state the obvious. Well, it's obvious to me, but I don't want to assume it's obvious to anyone else. I know how therapy works.
Yeah.
And confidentiality works, but that's not, I've lived in this world for 25 years, so
yeah,
I might not have always known how that works. And so it's nice just to be super clear. So, and then you can avoid some of that awkwardness. And
because that would be,
I always say, you are welcome to shout off the rooftops to your therapist. I will never tell anybody, even if I realize we know people in common, because it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't confirm or deny that I know who you're talking about, and I will never, you never have to worry. And then I actually go further and say, I know that you know that I'm bound by my license to do that, but it goes further than that for me. I really don't think therapy can work if you don't feel confident that I'm really holding your stuff private and it happens, in this space. So that it's not just like a license thing. It's like therapy won't work if you think I'm talking about you.
Right, exactly. Well, the funny thing she pointed out is, because we've only talked on the phone and seen each other in the consultation once like this, she goes, I won't even recognize you because look how fuzzy I am.
Yeah.
And she doesn't no idea how tall I am. She's like, I wouldn't even know if I saw you. I was like, you're absolutely so right.
And then if it were in person, because we're, if we're masks and then suddenly you're not in a mask, you're going to change so much.
And when she comes in person, we'll be wearing a mask. So it just is so funny. And I had one client I only met on telehealth for months, came in person, and she kept running at me like the most excited reunion. And we had, it was the funniest thing. It's like, so if you see them in public, I can just imagine if they do recognize me, it would probably be something like that, I know. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know, it's true.
There's some kids I've never met in person. Never.
Like that could be, I'm sure, a whole year's conversation in supervision about doing this through video. I obviously feel much more connected even through video to the people that I was seeing in person and now we're seeing on video, but I have been taking new clients and it's just like, they ask, oh, you're at your office instead of at home. And I say, yeah, and one day you'll be here too. And we'll around a little, and
Yeah.
there's just that. I mean, I feel connected, but I have to be aware that hopefully one day when we meet in person, it'll be like a new meeting.
Yeah.
So back to so good point. You talked about this, mentioning the fit and the confidentiality, and then what else would be your
an object of that first session?
Meeting?
Well, when you say objective, I don't know if you mean like the whole umbrella piece or just aspects of it. I think I just want to get up.
What's important to you, like when you say, oh gosh, I might not have gotten all the information because, I'm done, the meeting's over and
meet the person where they are. Like you're saying, I'm sorry, hope you don't hear all that ringing. My team is good. They're writing to each other all these messages in Teams, and it's dinging every single time in my ear.
Oh, I don't hear it. Mm-mm.
And I'm trying to block it. I don't see it here.
Can you mute that for yourself?
I muted something else, but I haven't figured out how to mute this yet.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry that you're distracted. Yeah, I understand.
I need to, but I almost pushed the leave button for our meeting. That's not good. I think obviously when I have a parent whose, child was traumatized on a bus and that's where they are, that's what I'm listening to, but I've also done consultation. We used to do consultations in person, which means I'm meeting with this mom, but I'm not necessarily taking them as a client who I learned how hard it is to keep their children safe and how do they stay out of their house long enough before he came home drunk. Like I never knew that some women were having to, go to our local children's museum. And then when it becomes, they could go outside to stay out late hours until they get home to avoid him. But then where do they go in the wintertime? They have to go somewhere like the museum to try to stay awake. The things that people had to do and the fear, I am not going to sit there and.
You wouldn't ask that.
I would be working on this list that I have over here when this is where this person is, because this is her consult.
And because they're educating you or filling you in about what life is like.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have known to ask, where do you spend the day to avoid Dad?
I didn't even realize that people were doing that. I mean, there were several women I had to meet, so I was learning all about the life of living with an abuser. Yeah. But this is, and the thing is, it's really like, where does it fall into the process? If they've done a forensic interview, that family comes in here shocked. They're not even hearing or seeing. They're in such trauma just coming that they just learned something happened to their child. So when I get them in a touch point or a consultation, there's a lot of things still going on, or things are starting to open up in their head, or the anger is starting to come up to the point of sometimes some of my team, we go right from consultation to intake. So sometimes you just blur the lines about, is this a consultation? No, we're going to take you as a client. We need you here. You fit some of the criteria, some of it we're going to bend because you're a priority one, so we shift pretty quickly, or then we stay in this place of, this is a consultation. Let me teach. We try to do some teaching about the impact of trauma, how it impacts the brain and behavior and those things. So we do a little educational component, and then we'll either do referrals out, we'll work on that, or we'll work on just shifting it right to the fact that I know I can take you in my schedule. Let's start talking about setting up an intake, because every step has all these forms involved. There's so many forms now. So it's really hard to be sending everything via email. The amount of paperwork sometimes families have to do really frustrates me. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like I'm touching the heart. So you as the therapist,
mm-hmm.
and being aware that you want to be attuned and meeting them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like priority. And then the running commentary over here is this paper, that paper, this, so the administrative part of being the therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard because I'm always like rushing through things, and I'm like, I don't have to rush through parts of these. I can just take my time with it. I'll get to that. And because I am building up more rapport with these parents, I am getting them back on I get them on my schedule, and then I gather more information, or I make a more attempt to meet them weekly or biweekly, because I need them to have some different understanding about trauma, or we need to work on attachment, so I do get all of these things later, but I see a value. When I did a training this summer, I went to a training at UNT, where I graduated from, the Center for Play Therapy. Their informational gathering was just so rich, and how they did the intake, which then informs goals that reflect what the parents are looking for and goals that the therapist has decided to work on. But we also, when I did my training there, we had different assessments that I think we need a parent trust index. I think we need a child behavior checklist, but those all cost money, Yeah, because we're focused on the trauma piece. So maybe that's my new goal at work. Trying to see how we can incorporate other assessments. I want to measure parent stress, because I have a parent who is able to talk about her levels, and her behavior between her and her child has changed since I've been doing CPRT with her, child parent relationship therapy. I mean, she gets that he's not only changing, she is, and I would love to be able to measure that. So maybe that's one of the things I want to investigate as I'm coming up on my year in November.
Wow.
November 4th.
Wow.
Already.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. So I have to think of new goals looking forward, and conducting groups of child parent relationship therapy groups is a little more complicated now. I mean, people do it in Zoom, but we don't have a platform that will do that.
Oh, gosh.
Because we bought Doxy. So I'm trying to convince them to think about changing after our contract's up for the year, so we can do more things in other places that we can't do in Doxy.
Did you say you guys have the free? Because my Doxy, I can include like up to 10 people, I think.
Our Doxy, right, I can look at that as well, but I can't find a way to, when we share videos now, other people can't hear it.
Okay, anyway.
So we have the paid one. We got a grant.
Yeah.
So I said, before we pay it another year, when that comes up, let's all be looking at other options so we have a chance to make improvements.
So just to reflect a little back to what I'm getting from what you're saying is, you're having this like, oh, I should think about that as my goal. And so there are these scales and measures that would be useful if you could get a grant to pay for them and incorporate them in your work. And then I really like how, you're aware of the usefulness that, how that would be useful and valuable in your work, and wonder if, even if you didn't get the scales and measures and, pay for those assessment tools, just your awareness that that's an important thing to be in touch with will inform, how you interact. So there's other, those tools are great, but there's ways to listen for that, or to ask about that.
That will come with time and experience, I think. Like when I hear you saying in my first session's assessment, I'm like, oh yeah, I bet there's certain things that you kind of have a gut on, like an understanding that you've seen other times. It's just, oh, that's kind of making me think I'm going to park that for now.
Yeah.
But let me see what else,
Yeah.
Right. Because like this, and sometimes you can't control that. My first consultation, an intake with a parent, she was on her new medication. That poor lady was like doing this in her session, but that also cued me in that she's having her struggles. And then finally, just last month, she finally says, I just don't want to think about that happened to her. I just want it to all go away. And that's how she's been treating this child.
Right.
And this is why this child for 2 years didn't disclose to anybody, So
it comes to mind for me, sort of like linking back to our start, our meditation at the beginning. I think what I'm getting from you is you're aware that you can have an agenda, but you don't know if the parent's going to be showing up like
right.
And that here's the link I'm trying to make, a creative link. Instead of viewing that as the distraction or obstacle to getting what you are supposed to be doing, you're embracing that as this is what's happening and this is good information and it is part of the assessment, not an obstacle to the assessment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And even just letting the parent tell me where they are. How's it going
Right.
for you?
So
Because
like
I need that.
when you said, oh, I had trouble doing the meditation, I was distracted by the sandbox, that reframe helps confirm you're actually doing a really good job, not, oh, there was this obstacle, I didn't know how to get around it.
Right. That's true. Yeah. You have to look at them sometimes as a gift. Okay. Because I know personally when I go to counseling, I kind of start thinking about what do I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. And I always assume that's what other people are doing, but that's not true.
Not
It's
always.
not. No. And then when you do the visualization and relaxation, it brings you in the here and now and what's really sitting in you and calling you. That's where I think that works beautifully.
Yes, and I don't know if you've had this happen yet, but if I work with adults, and a lot of times they say, that is not what I came in here thinking we were going to talk about.
Uh-huh.
So I always say, sure, come with, if some people, they come with their little notes and
Yeah.
here's the things I want to talk about today. And I'm like, oh, sure. Again, when we've meandered from that list and other things have arrived, let's not think about that as I didn't meet my goals, but we honored the things that felt important in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are often the richest things. Like, I feel like the things on the list are the things that are being
the true distractors.
Well, say that again.
They're true distractors. The true obstacles.
They are the structure that's being created out of a place of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that I can create a space where whatever comes forward feels like the thing that needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And why not do that with adults? Because that's exactly what I'm doing in child-centered play therapy. Right. They come in, that's where I'm trying to break away. When do I structure parts of it? Is like, because when they come in, they do the work they need to be doing.
That's right.
And so that's why I'm working with Kay, who does play therapy, and how she incorporates, when she notices something, then she can incorporate the quote teaching or the technique that she wants to teach. So that's the part I'm trying to push out of my frame.
So that was a great question. Why wouldn't I do that with adults? I do that with kids. And so with adults, even if it's not as, however you want to start it, but that check-in almost, allows them to relax.
Yeah.
And when you say, just notice whatever comes up to the top. Maybe they're picturing, maybe it's like oil and water, or whatever rises to the top.
Right, because that would be really, I would like to do this with this, the 13-year-old I start with, because I catch myself, she doesn't enter ready to talk. And I just catch myself sending too many questions her way, school, home, that's a. But as we got, 15, 20 minutes into it, man, I was learning about the best years of her life when she was 6 and younger. I mean, all these things, because then she gets warmed up. So I want to do a different check-in.
Warm up.
I need a different check-in with her. She no longer has her art supplies because they had to leave this last house very quickly. They can't get access. So I can't even get her to do that. So I need to find a different way to just ease into it for her, to find a landing place.
I often say, and I think you can, I think you can adopt this as a play therapist too. Like, I say, as an expressive arts therapist, I'm sure I've told you this before, as an expressive arts therapist, there may be no art materials involved, but that's the frame.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only frame I know how to work within. And so it's about, you know, creating the space for something to arise, and that's what creativity is. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you're drawing it or singing it or moving it. It means it could just be a thought or a feeling. So that similar to if you were working with in play, you would say, here are the toys, choose the toy, you know, and just so you can set the scene over teletherapy in a different way
Mm-hmm.
of like, you're not saying here's the paper and here's the markers, but you're saying you're doing it through imagery, check in.
Right. That's the biggest playground we've got,
Yeah.
right?
That
And
is
it's
such a great way of saying it.
and it
Oh, that's
travels
amazing.
wherever we go. And she's got one too. And she's got great stories and vivid memories. So
Nice.
I should trust that. Just say, hey, let's just try this together. You look really comfortable laying on your tiger pillow. Let's
Yeah.
just go in our imagination for a minute and see what's happening in there. What's going to be something that maybe we can explore a little bit together.
Right, and even if she's not like, you know, that game with like looking at the clouds and see what you see, so maybe close your eyes and pretend you're looking at the sky and what's in the clouds, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the imagination is the biggest playground. I love that.
Maybe you'll quote me someday.
I will. So so I wanted to make sure that gosh, this goes so quickly.
It does. It
I
does.
wanted to make sure that I jotted down some things when we were checking in originally, and
Okay.
I love that you just said, maybe you'll quote me sometime. I'm sure I will. And I just wanted to mirror back something that felt probably really nice for you. And you sort of said it flippantly, but you got a community referral.
Oh yeah.
And what's the laughing about? Is
Well,
that,
because my other supervisor acknowledged the same thing. She goes, you got a referral. And
yeah,
that is so great because you will need that. That's going to be wonderful by the time you're an LPC. That's really
yeah.
important.
And, you know, it's so interesting. Like, I know how you met Mary, and you weren't like at a networking function where you had an opportunity to like tell her this is what I'm an expert at. But, you know, you had an opportunity for her to get to know who you are, and there in her heart and mind, oh, I would refer people to Lulu. And yeah, and you're laughing, I know.
That's
But it's
wonderful.
like, I encourage you to embrace that you are out there being seen as, you know, an expert and authority in the field that you're in, and that take that in.
I need to step out of myself and look at this person and acknowledge, just like other
Yeah.
people do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And that's a learning, because I
Mm-hmm.
know you're still in a place of like,
Deep
how do I,
learning. So much,
what am
so
I doing?
much.
And do I know what I'm doing? But the more you can embrace, you know, yeah, like, you know, and Mary's a very well respected therapist in this community too. So to get a
Mhm.
referral from her is like, ooh, you've arrived, girl.
I love it. I love it.
Good, good. Yeah, I just really wanted to give that the attention it deserved.
Thank you.
You're uncomfortable with it, I think.
It's okay.
But yeah, it is. It's okay. Yeah, stay humble.
Rock.
I know. But that's how it works. That's how it works. And it's so nice to hear that you're being acknowledged that way in the
Mm,
community.
yeah.
I don't doubt that that will be rippling for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You're awesome. And then, because we don't have a bunch of time, but I'll just maybe this will be I'm putting a pin in this thought that we can carry over to next time. And I know scheduling will be an issue, and we'll talk about that offline. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that. Okay.
Because I have some thoughts. I'll email you.
Yeah, we can take care of that. No problem. I have no urgency. You said, and this is a running theme, I hope I can give her what she needs.
All the time. And what I do notice and have to remember before I say that again is, as we get into the work, I have the ability to be there for them. You know, I always do this at the beginning of a new client. I hope I have what they need. And it turns out I'm okay. I have this anticipatory anxiety.
Yeah.
Many things in my life, not just this.
So it's you. It's who you are. It's how you. It's how you
operate.
Yeah, and I think I'll tell you this as a way to hopefully normalize. Excuse me, normalize that. Doing this for so long, I'm not sure there's ever a time where I don't check in within myself around a similar question, and feel an anxiety around new clients. That's almost like the first question, and it's so worth examining. The first question before I then connect to, I'm a person that gets community referrals. Like, of course I can. No, I don't want to be like, of course I can. I think that I hope I can give her what she needs. It isn't necessarily a question about my confidence or skills. It's a question about, are we a good fit? And I don't want to be arrogant and assume that of course we are. And that can be a leading thing.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah, I mean, I told you before we started to record that I knew I had this group that I was doing last night at 6:30. I can't even begin to tell you. I know how I appear when I'm doing stuff, but I'd love the camera on me like the hour or 2 hours before. Like, I texted my group to say, like, I'm so anxious.
Oh.
Please give me some affirmation. You know, and they text back, you're a guru, you're a rock star, you've got this. But I just recognize that as part of my process, and I need to do that. It's part of the energy I bring. And it's, what else is it? It's, I'd rather be that humble than arrogant to that degree.
Yeah.
Because then it brings me to the place of making sure that I've got all the boxes checked that I want to, that I've got things in place. Those are the structure that will all go out the window once I get in the groove, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing me, and it works.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, but if I compare it to when I first started to now, I definitely have elevated my I can recognize that I'm better at doing this, you know.
And last word, if I can make an analogy, I have thought so much about this. That is the creative process. That is how I cannot create anything meaningful there's no creative process that I've been involved in where I'm not right beforehand shitting bricks thinking, can we cancel? I can't do it. It's going to be awful. It's like that. And, similar to like, it's the labor pains. It hurts. I don't want to, can we stop?
Yeah.
And that is like the place that I recognize every time something is about to transform.
Because it's not a done product when you enter into that relationship with those people. It's going to be what happens at in that That's relationship. Right. Yeah.
So
Lauren, that was so great. Thank you. But I hate to end, but I have to.
I know, I got it. Yeah, we'll talk more about that because yes.
I want to. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have
being a creative therapist, we didn't use the tools today, but now I feel like, but we did because that's the creative.
Oh my
process.
gosh, the notes I got today are fantastic. I got so much. Thank you.
Okay, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll email about scheduling.
For sure. Thank you.